மோஸ்ட் ஆஃப் இஷ்யூஸ் வந்துட்டு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு இதில் தான் வரும். ஒடிக்கல் ஏபிஎன் ஏஆர் எஃப்ஏ இது 3 தான் உங்களுக்கு இஷ்யூஸ் வரும். ஸோ ஈவன் கேஷ் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு இஷ்யூஸ்ன்னு சொல்லிட்டு பெருசாலாம் வராது உங்களுக்கு. ஏன்னா கேஷ் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் அண்ட் ஜிஎல் ரெண்டுமே பார்த்தீங்க அப்படின்னா, ஸோ கேஷ் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட்டில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட் தான் இருக்குது. ஸோ இதில் வந்துட்டு உங்களுக்கு ஒரு சில ஐட்டம் ரெக்கன்சைல் ஆகலைங்கிறது வரும். அதுக்கப்புறம் உங்களுக்கு அந்த ஃபோர்காஸ்ட் அண்ட் அனலைசஸ்ன்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஒன்று இருக்கு. ஸோ அதில் queries வரும். இந்த மாதிரி தான் வரும். ஸோ இன்னொன்று ஜிஎல்ல பார்த்தீங்க அப்படின்னா உங்களுக்கு எல்லாமே ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் செட்டப். இன்கேஸ் உங்களுக்கு இன்டெகிரேஷன் இருக்கு அப்படின்னா இம்போர்ட் பண்ணும்போது உங்களுக்கு ஃபெயில் ஆயிருக்குன்னு சொல்லிட்டு வரும். ஸோ அந்த ஃபெயிலியர் ரீசன்ஸ் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு மல்டிபிள் இருக்கு. நான் உங்களுக்கு எரர் கோட் உங்களுக்கு ஷேர் பண்ணுறேன் எப்படி சால்வ் பண்ணுறதுங்கிற மாதிரி. பட் உங்களுக்கு ஸ்பெசிஃபிக் டு தி இஷ்யூ வந்துட்டு உங்களுக்கு இதில் வராது. உங்களுக்கு கேஷ் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் அண்ட் ஒரிக்கல் ஜென்ரல் லெஜரில் வராது. ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் இப்போ நீங்கள் ஒரு ஃபிக்ஸ்ட் அசெட்டுக்கு அசெட் ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணுறீங்க அப்படின்னா லெட்ஸே இது உங்களுக்கு ஒரு ப்ராஜெக்ட் ரிலேட்டட் ட்ரான்சாக்ஷன்னா அந்த ப்ராஜெக்ட் நம்பர் இதெல்லாம் கேப்சர் ஆகலைங்கிறது ஒன்றா இருக்கலாம். அதுக்கப்புறம் நீங்கள் இங்கேருந்து மூவ் பண்ணுறீங்கன்னா ஃபிக்ஸ்ட் அசெட்டில் உங்களுக்கு இந்த இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் கேப்சர் ஆகலைங்கிறது ஒன்று இருக்கும். அதுக்கப்புறம் உங்களுக்கு அசெட் மாடியூல்லே பார்த்தீங்கன்னா லீஸ் அசெட்ஸ்ன்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஒரு கான்செப்ட் இருக்குது. ஸோ லீஸ் அசெட் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு இன்வாய்ஸ் ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்காக பேபிளில் வந்துட்டு கிரியேட் ஆகணும். ஸோ அப்போ அது கிரியேட் ஆகலைங்கிற மாதிரி வரும். அதுக்கப்புறம் உங்களுக்கு டிப்ரிசியேஷன் வந்துட்டு ராங்காக கால்குலேட் ஆகுது, இதோட பிரேக்கப் வேணுங்கிற மாதிரி இருக்கும். ஸோ அது நம்ம எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணுற மாதிரி இருக்கும். அதுக்கப்புறம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு சில அசெட்ஸ் வந்துட்டு ஃபிக்ஸ்ட் அசெட்டில் இருந்து உங்களுக்கு ஜிஎல் வரைக்கும் எடுத்துகிட்டு போகிறதில்ல, அந்த ரெக்கார்டில் உங்களுக்கு queries கேட்பாங்க. அதுக்கப்புறம் ஏபியில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு சில டிரான்சாக்ஷன் இருக்கும். அதாவது உங்களுக்கு பிரைமரி அண்ட் செகண்டரி லெட்ஜர் போட்டு வச்சுருந்தாங்க அப்படின்னா உங்களுக்கு வந்துட்டு லெட்ஸே இந்த ஒரு டிரான்சாக்ஷன் வந்துட்டு நீங்கள் போஸ்ட் பண்ணுறீங்கன்னா ஸோ அதோட செகண்டரி லெஜர் பீரியட் ஓப்பன் பண்ணலன்னா உங்களுக்கு அது போஸ்ட் ஆகாது. ஸோ அது உங்களுக்கு ஒரு இஷ்யூவாக வரும். அதுக்கப்புறம் ஒரு சிலதெல்லாம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா லாஸ்ட் மந்தோடது இன்னும் அக்கௌண்ட் பண்ணாமல் வச்சுருப்பாங்க, அதை ஸ்வீப் பண்ணி வச்சுருப்பாங்க. அப்போ அந்த ஸ்வீப்பிங் இதழ் இஷ்யூ பார்த்தீங்கன்னா நீங்கள் அதை எடுத்து பார்க்கணும். ஒரு சிலது பார்த்தீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு அக்கௌண்டிங் இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் இதாக தான் இருக்கும், நீங்கள் கரெக்ட் பண்ணுற மாதிரி இருக்கும். ஒரு சிலது ஹோல்ஸ் இருக்கும். அதுக்கப்புறம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு பேமெண்ட்லேயே பிபிஆர் ரன் பண்ணால் ஒரு ஸ்பெசிஃபிக் இன்வாய்ஸ் மட்டும் உங்களுக்கு பிக் ஆகலன்னு இருக்கும். ஒரு சிலது பார்த்தீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு உங்களுக்கு இன்வாய்ஸ் வந்துட்டு பை யூஎஸ்டி போடணும், பட் அது வந்துட்டு சிங்கப்பூர் டாலர்ஸில் போட்டோங்கிற மாதிரி இருக்கும். ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி உங்களுக்கு ஏபி ஃபிக்ஸ்ட் அசெட்டு ஏஆர் இந்த மாதிரி மாடியூல்ஸில் உங்களுக்கு இஷ்யூஸ் வரும். பட் ஜிஎல் அண்ட் கேஷ் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட்டில் உங்களுக்கு பெருசாக இஷ்யூ வர்றதுக்கு வாய்ப்பே கிடையாது. ஏன்னா இங்கேருந்து நீங்கள் டேட்டாவை ஜிஎலுக்கு புஷ் பண்ண போகிறீங்க, அதுலேருந்து நீங்கள் ஒரு ரிப்போர்ட்டோ ஏதோ ஒன்று அனலைஸ் பண்ண போகிறீங்க. அதே மாதிரி கேஷ் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட்டில் எடுத்துக்கிட்டிங்கன்னா ஒரு பேமெண்ட் பண்ண போகிறீங்க, பேமெண்ட் பண்ணிவிட்டு ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட் வரும், ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட் ரெக்கன்சைல் ஆக போகுது. இதில் உங்களுக்கு மேபி ஒரு சில டிரான்சாக்ஷன் ரெக்கன்சைல் ஆகாமல் இருக்கும். அதுக்குமே அகைன் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா நம்ம டிரான்சாக்ஷன் ரூல்ஸ் எல்லாம் எழுதி வச்சுருப்போம். அப்போ டிரான்சாக்ஷன் ரூல் எழுதி வச்சுருக்கீங்கன்னா ஸோ இதை பேஸ் பண்ணி உங்களுக்கு ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்காக ரெக்கார்ட் ஆகும். ஸோ இதில் ஆகாதது பார்த்தீங்கன்னா மேபி ஃபாரின் கரன்சி டிரான்சாக்ஷன் இருக்குன்னா அதுக்கு உங்களுக்கு ஆகாமல் இருக்கும். அதுக்கப்புறம் உங்களுக்கு சிலது டாலரன்ஸ் இல்லாமல் இருக்கும். ஸோ டாலரன்ஸ் இல்லை அப்படின்னா பாயிண்ட் அதாவது லெட்ஸே ப்ரெசிஷன் இன் த சென்ஸ் 10 rupees 0.01 இருக்குது. பட் உங்களுக்கு ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட்டில் வந்துட்டு 10 rupees 0.02 இருக்குது. அப்போ 0.01 டிஃப்ரென்ஸ் இருந்ததுன்னா உங்களுக்கு அது ரெக்கன்சைல் பண்ணாது. ஸோ நீங்கள் மேனுவலாக எடுத்துகிட்டு போய் எந்த டிரான்சாக்ஷன் கூட பார்க்கணும். ஸோ இல்லாட்டி நீங்கள் இதுக்கு வந்துட்டு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு மேனுவல் ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட் லைன் ஆட் பண்ணி க்ளோஸ் பண்ணணும். இல்லாட்டி நீங்கள் டாலரன்ஸ் செட் பண்ணணும். ஸோ டாலரன்ஸ் செட் பண்ணோன்னா அகைன் உங்களுக்கு அது அப்ரூவல் இதெல்லாம் இருக்குது. ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி தான் உங்களுக்கு இஷ்யூஸ் வரும். ஸோ அதுதான் நான் சொன்ன மாதிரி உங்களுக்கு மோஸ்ட்லி அந்த 3 மாடியூல்ஸில் வருமே தவிர ஜிஎல் அண்ட் கேஷ் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட்டில் உங்களுக்கு இஷ்யூஸ் ரொம்ப கம்மியாக தான் வரும். ஸோ அது வந்துட்டு நான் உங்களுக்கு ரெஸ்பெக்டிவ் மாடியூல் எடுக்கும்போது நான் சொல்லுவேன் உங்களுக்கு. அதாவது நம்ம ஃபஸ்ட்டு ஃப்ளோ எப்படி இருக்குன்னு கேட்டிங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு ஃபஸ்ட்டு செட்டப் இருக்கும், அதுக்கப்புறம் டிரான்சாக்ஷனு, அதுக்கப்புறம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா காமன்லி சீன் இஷ்யூஸுங்கிற மாதிரி பார்ப்போம். ஸோ ஜிஎல்ல காமன்லி சீன் இஷ்யூஸுங்கிற மாதிரி நமக்கு ஆசச் எதுவுமே கிடையாது. ஸோ அதனால் உங்களுக்கு நான் அந்த டாப்பிக்கே எடுக்கலை. ஸோ ஏபி வந்தோம்னா தான் உங்களுக்கு அது இருக்கும். ஸோ ப்ராப்ளி ஏபி முடிக்கும் போது வேணால் சொல்லுங்கள், நான் உங்களுக்கு அது சொல்கிறேன். அது ஏபிஆர் ஃபிக்ஸ்ட் அசெட் ஆர் எனி அதர் மாடியூல்.
ஓகே, அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட். என்ன புரியுது எனக்கு. ஜிஎல்ல மோஸ்ட்லியோட என்ன அவங்க தியரிட்டிக்கலாக கேட்குற கொஷின்ஸ் ரீவேல்யூவேஷன், அப்புறம் டிரான்ஸ்லேஷன், அப்புறம் அந்த அந்த மாதிரி இதுதான் இருக்கும் அது. ஏன்னா சரி, சரி நம்ம ஏபிஐ முடிச்சுட்டு அதை நம்ம பார்க்கலாம். அதை நம்ம
ஓகே. அதான் இதுல பாத்தீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு
சாட் பண்ணிருக்கேன் பாருங்க அருண். பண்ணி ஆரம்பிங்க.
ஓகே.
இன்ஸ்டன்ஸ் லாகின் பண்ணி ஆரம்பிச்சிருக்கீங்க.
ஓகே. வேற ஏதாச்சும் கொஸ்டின் இருக்குங்களா?
இல்லை அருண், நீங்கள் ஆரம்பிங்க. நம்ம
ஓகே. Okay, I think, yeah, so I think it is loaded almost. So, yeah, so today we'll start with cash management module. Okay, so what we'll be looking at in terms of cash management module is that. So, firstly, we'll start with basics, that is to create a bank account. Okay, and then we have few things in cash management, that is in terms of receiving the statement, and then we have a way wherein we can load the bank statement automatically in the system, and then if at all there is so there is some transaction that we cannot say that this is the charge that will be imposed for this particular transaction. Okay, so for those kind of transactions we'll have to create separate rule and generate the transaction automatically, and then we have the bank transfers. Okay, so these are the things that we have planned for today's session. So probably I hope you can see my screen, so I'll just start start with basic. So that is to create the bank and the bank accounts. All right. Yeah, so firstly, in order to understand this bank master, so first thing what we will have to understand is that, so we have two things. So one is internal bank accounts and the other thing is external bank accounts. So when I say internal bank account, so that is the bank account of the customer. So customer here meaning, so for instance, so BMW is my customer, which means that I'm trying to implement this Oracle solution for BMW. So here the BMW is the entity. So when we talk about the internal bank accounts, it's the bank accounts that is holded by BMW as an entity. Okay. So the external bank accounts are something that either it could be the supplier's bank account or it could be the customer's bank account. So let's take a supplier's bank account. So here I have two things. So one is that the bank account details that I'll create in the supplier master. Okay, so when we see the payable module, so we'll look at how this bank account details are added there, or how this bank account details are attached to this particular supplier. Okay, so that we'll see in detail when we see the accounts payable module. So for now, I'll just explain how we are creating this bank and branch and bank accounts, that is for the internal transaction purpose, which means that if I want to pay out to a particular vendor, so I'm using my bank account. So let's say I'm using Access Bank to pay out its customer, or let's say its vendor. Okay, so now how do we create this? Okay, so now before that, so the structure is built such a way that if I want to create my bank account for supplier, so I will have to create my bank and branch in cash management module. So unless I create these two things, so system will not allow me to create the bank account number of the supplier. Okay, so which will be created in the cash management module. So I'll just show you how this can be created in the cash management module. So now this bank and branch will not have more information to capture. So wherein the structure is something like this. So you'll have the basic information on top, that is your bank name, and then you'll have your contact information. So these are the things that you will capture as part of your bank master. Okay, so then we have our bank accounts. Okay, so this bank account, if you say, so this is where we are capturing most of the information. So let's say I have a requirement, so wherein I am using this particular bank account only for the purpose of uh, head office payment, which means my payment is centralized. So if I want to create the invoice, so I can create invoice from any of the branches that is present in either it could be in India or from anywhere. Okay, right? So now, if I want to make the payment, I wanted to make payment only from my head office. So let's consider the head office is put up in Chennai. So now, invoice can be created either in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, Mumbai, any location that have my business operation. But then the payment can be made only from Chennai office. Okay, so how do I control this? Is that using the data access. So when I say data access, it could be your business unit or it could be your role. So we have two options. So one thing is that I can give access. Okay, I think instance is bit low. So probably meanwhile I'll just explain the theoretical part and then probably we can look at the system. Okay. So now if I want to give access to use this bank account only to the head office, that is the Chennai office. So what I'll do is that I'll say business unit, and this is the business unit that I wanted to give access. Okay. So the remaining things I'll not give access. Okay. So that is how basically I will control in terms of accessing my bank account. One thing. And the second thing that I have, okay, so now if I want to access this bank account, so what will I need is our, let's say the bank account, basically the cash management module, the transactions, either it could be the bank transfer or it could be the statements. So if I want to see this, so I will need a role called cash manager. So now if I have this cash manager role, so I'll be able to access my bank accounts. I'll be able to see my cash transactions. I'll be able to see my imported statements, whatever the statement that has end up in error, all those things I can see. So it has been provisioned with this role called cash manager. So this is standard role that is given by Oracle. Okay. Yeah. So now I have created this bank account for this particular business unit. Okay. So now then I will have my cash account or the bank account. So when I will use this cash account or bank account is that, so when I'm trying to make this payment, so before that, let me just give you the accounting entries so that we can understand it well in terms of understanding how this account code combination is derived or picked up. Okay. Yeah. So the first thing is that when I book an invoice, so I'll see my expense account on the debit and credit side I'll have the liability. So similarly, I will have my liability account on the debit and my bank account on the credit when I make the payment. Okay. So here there are two things that might happen. So either it could be directly the bank account or bank clearing account. So now, so where do I get this account? That is bank account. So that is from the bank account that we are creating. So here I can give the account code combination. So here I'll have two things. So one is that cash account and then the cash clearing account. Okay. So now this combination is used if I make payment. Okay. So now why do I have this cash clearing and cash account is that? So it is to indicate whether this particular payment is reconciled with my statement or not. So in a way that if I see this particular payment in bank clearing or the cash clearing, so it is giving an understanding that I have not basically cleared this particular transaction, which means I have made or I have issued the instrument to the customer or the vendor, but it is not being paid to the vendor. Okay, so that's the meaning, which means it is pending with bank. It could be the check or DD or any instrument. So of course the NEFT and RTGS, it is on real-time basis, or at least if you are using the file transfer protocol. So we'll talk about what is file transfer protocol and what is API. So how it is equipped in Fusion application. We'll talk more about it. But now to understand, basically, if I'm using this FTP to transfer my payment file and get it cleared by the bank. So I can use for NEFT and this thing, but for DD and check, it is still the manual process because I'll have to write the check and give to person. Okay, so now I'm recording this payment, which will tell me this is in cash clearing status. Okay, which means bank hasn't cleared this payment, but I have initiated from my end. Okay, so now I'm getting statement from bank saying that against this particular check number, I have debited your account. Okay, so which means that this amount is being paid to the vendor. Okay, so this is how basically I will understand if this particular payment is reconciled with my statement or this is not reconciled with my statement. So all those things I can see from here. Okay, just give me a moment. Let me check if we have some other new line because this is very slow. Okay, so let me check for the instance. So meanwhile, we'll just see the other things. Okay, so just let me try to reload it. So I'll use the Excel sheet to explain few things. Okay, so as I said, first thing we have the bank and branch. Okay, so yeah, so one thing to note here is that so if you are implementing for Indian customers, so you'll have this IFSC code. So IFSC code is captured at branch level. Okay, so the branch number is the field where we will capture the IFSC code. Okay, so this is the field used to capture the IFSC number. So the next thing that we have is that bank account number. Okay, so this bank account number I will have first thing is that my uh, accounts. Okay, so that is GL account and options. Okay, and then the second thing I will have is um, then the controls. Okay, then the access, that is role based as access. Finally, I will have my BU access. Okay, so now, so here in the bank account, so what I will have is that, so as I said, here we'll have two accounts. So one is this cash account and the second one is cash clearing account. So this is first and foremost. And then the second thing that I have here is that I have something called usage, which means what I can use this bank account for. So can I use it for receivable or can I use it for payable or can I use it for payroll? Okay. So now I will have an option of enabling this as a checkbox. So if I enable it only for payroll, which means that this bank account will be used only for the purpose of payroll transactions. If I say I'm using it for payables and I'm using it for receivables, so which means it is used for payables and receivables. So there are certain customers who will have a separate bank account for collections and separate bank accounts for payments. So when I say collections, it is accounts receivable module. Okay, so which means whatever the inward cash, okay, through your sales, so that we call it as collection. Okay, so in that case, you will enable for this. Let's say this is your collection bank account. So you will say it is only for AR or receivable, and then this for the second bank account. So you will create another bank account saying it is only for payable transaction. Okay, so this is how you will set if it is only for the payment and only for the collections. Okay, and then you have certain options in terms of selecting whether you wanted to use the multi-currency. So multi-currency is a scenario wherein you are basically paying in foreign currency. Okay, so when we look at the payable module, so we'll see this in detail because there we'll have to see the revaluation part. So revaluation is nothing but if you are creating transaction in foreign currency today, so probably at the end of the period you'll have to revalue and post your profit or loss, because if you are paying on a particular date and if you're paying on month end, so what is the difference is what we'll try to understand. So it's in the accounted currency. So when I say accounted currency, it is your foreign currency transaction. Okay, so we'll see that in detail when we see the payable module. Okay, so now for that you'll have to enable option here in the cash management module. Okay, so which will tell us whether this particular bank account can be used for my uh, multi-currency transactions or not. Just give me a minute. Let me just check if uh, okay, it's not posted here. Okay, I'll see the theoretical part first, and then probably we'll see because the instance is a bit slow. Okay, yeah. So this is one thing, that is your usage, and then the use for multi-currency. And also you can enable the netting feature. Okay, so this again we'll see when we look at the receivable module. So so after the cash management module, so we have this payable module. So after payable module we'll see receivable module. Okay, so now here if you see, so what exactly is netting? So netting is something, so I have particular party. So let me call this as Amazon. Okay. So from Amazon, I'm purchasing something for my material request. Okay. Also, I'm selling my items through Amazon. So which means Amazon is becoming my party to purchase and also becoming party to sell this particular produced items. Okay. So now instead of paying to Amazon and receiving the amount for the sale that I have made, so what I can do is that I can set up this netting feature. So what this netting feature will do is that, so this will look for the total payment. So let's say the payable due is 10,000. Okay, but the amount that I will have to receive from Amazon is, let's say, 12,000. Okay, so in this case I will not pay this 10,000, but instead I will receive only this 2,000 from Amazon. Okay, so I'm not going to pay, so I'm just going to collect the amount. So this is the feature of netting. So if I want to use this feature, I'll have to enable this bank account. So usually you will not use the payment or the collection bank account for netting. So for netting, we'll create separate bank account. So that would be your dummy bank account. So that is used to knock off your balance amounts. Okay. So that is about the netting, and next thing what you have is that your controls. So what are the controls that you have? So here first and foremost you have the tolerance. So now why do you need tolerance is that, so as I said, if you have a variation in your foreign currency transaction, so you will need this tolerance to be set up. So now let's say my actual currency is let's say 80 rupees. Okay, so now the invoice or the payment value is 10,000. Okay, so now there are two scenarios I'll talk about. So first scenario that I'm talking about here is that there is a difference in terms of precision. So now I have put in as an 10,000, but in statement it says it is 10,085 paise. So since there is 85 paise difference, so this will not be reconciled automatically. So now for this, I can say it is 10%, or let's say this is, let's say 1%. Okay. So even 1% will work for this scenario because this is very much lesser than 1%, right? So if I set this tolerance, it is going to consider this and it is going to reconcile automatically. Okay. So this is first thing. And second thing is that I have the reconciliation rule set. So now what is this reconciliation rule set is that, or before that, I'll just explain what is reconciliation rule. Okay. So now I have different options here. So the first option that I have is that I can say one-to-one matching. Okay, one to one I can say. Then I can say one to many. Okay, and then I can say many to many. Okay, and then I can say many to one. Okay. So now, how do we understand this one to one or one to many? Is that so? I have a scenario wherein if my payment number is 89 and the reference number that I'm getting in my statement is 89, so I'll just knock off with this transaction. Okay, or probably if I want to look at my amount again, it is going to be same. Okay, so I can do this recon basically based on one-to-one matching. Okay, so there are another set of transactions. So let's assume that I'm doing my payroll transaction in a specific account, in a specific bank account. So now in this bank account, if you see in my books, I'll have one particular entry, which means I'm going to say that, so these are my payroll components. It could be basic, travel, whatever the component that we want to include. So these are the breakups that you will have, and you will have the salary account. Okay, so which means that you are making payment for your salary expenses. Okay, so now here in Oracle you will have one line transaction, that is one entry, but whereas if you look at your this thing, what you call the bank account, so you will not see the same information because I cannot say it is credited with one payment. It is the batch payment. So inside this batch, let's say this batch number I call it as 90. So 90 I will have probably for Amar, and then I will have for let's say Sudhir. Okay, and then probably like say Lakshmi. Okay, so similarly you'll have any n number of employees in your company, so for whom you might have processed your payroll for a particular period. So now in my statement I have multiple lines, but in my books I have only one. So I'll say this is one to many. Okay, so which means, so how do I do this recon is that using this payment batch number, using that I can say this is basically one transaction against multiple credits. Okay, so now similarly I have this many to many. So there are multiple scenarios that you will have many transaction that will be matched with many transaction. Okay, and also many to one. So many to one meaning that in Oracle you will have many transaction, but there you will have one check that is issued. Okay, so this is how you will do it. So this is your reconciliation rules. So now we will not attach our reconciliation rule here. So instead we are attaching the reconciliation rule set. Okay. So now, so this is one rule for me. So this is my second rule. This is third and fourth. It's not mandatory to use all these rule sets, all these rules. But if I'm having a requirement to have probably one to one and one to many, so I'll have to do this through rule set. So I'll attach this as line number one and this as line number two. So system will look for these two rules. Okay, it will apply these two rules and it will match and reconcile particular lines between the books or Oracle books and the bank book. So when I say bank book, it is actually the bank statement that I'm referring to. Okay, so this is how we are using this rule set. Okay, so this is associated with our bank account. All right. So then we have the transaction rules. Okay. So transaction rule is nothing but for your charges basically. So now let's assume that I am having financial charges or the bank charges. Okay. So for what I'll have bank charges is that for bank transfer. So I'm doing this bank transfer. So for which I'm having this, or let's say I'm making a payment. So for which I'm having this bank charge. So I don't know exactly how much will be my bank charge exactly. So what I will do is that, so I'll write a rule. So there are multiple objects that you can bring in terms of writing this rule. Okay. So how do we write it? So we will have certain transaction code. Okay, and and now if I see this particular transaction code, so let's say uh, so this is my bank charge code that is given by Axis Bank. So now I'll set up this rule in a way that if I find this rule, so I wanted to generate this cash transaction. So this cash transaction will be generated automatically. So for which I will have to give the offset account. So offset account here is nothing but actual expense account that you are incurring. So in this case, it is the bank charge account that I will associate here in the offset. Okay. So now automatically your bank charge should be debited and your cash account will be credited. Okay, so basically based on which you will do the reconciliation. So this is how your this thing will work, the transaction rule. Okay. So then the next thing that you have is that, so as I said, we have the cash manager. Okay, so this cash manager role will give access to you. So it's not only limited to your role basically. So if you want to probably use or give access to a specific user, so instead of giving it as a role based control, because because the problem with role is that if I have probably user 1, okay, and user 2, for both of them, so I have given a cash manager role. Okay, so if I give this role, so both the users will be able to access this particular bank account. But if I give only for the user one who will be handling the bank statement and all those activities, so usually it is the one party or the one user who will take care of this particular bank statement and the reconciliation activity, kind of a manager, so who will take care of all those activities. Okay, So that is the user. If you want to give access, so you can give access straight away here. Okay, so based on which only that particular user will have access to it. Okay, so that would be mostly your treasury department or the payment team, right? And then your business unit. So as I said, you have so now this cash account, if you see, so we are giving here cash account and cash clearing account. So again here, when you add your business unit, so let's say I have BU1. Okay, yeah. So before that, what exactly is your business unit? Is that business unit is something where you incur expense or you generate revenue. So this is what we are calling it as business unit. Okay, so now I'm giving access to business unit 1. So now i'll I will have to input few accounts here. So if I'm not changing this account code combination, so probably system will take it from here, that is from bank account options. Okay, but if I'm giving it here, so system will take it from here. So the reason why do we have the segregation is that, so if, as I said, if we are doing as a centralized payment, we don't have any issue in terms of giving access only to that particular unit. But let's assume that I have operation in Mumbai, I have operation in Delhi and Chennai. So for each state, I have one head office that has been put up or in operation. Okay. So now, if I want to probably make payment from Delhi separately, Mumbai separately, Chennai separately, so I'll have to give access to all these three BUs. Okay. So here I'll have BU1, I will have BU2, and then I'll have BU3. All right. So now for BU1, what will I do is that I will have my BU1 balancing segment value. So we saw in general ledger module. So what is balancing segment value? That is your company segment value basically, which equals your debit and credits. Okay, right. So that is the one that I'm referring here. So now my company for BU1 is 10, for this it is 20, and for this it is 30. Let's assume I'm not putting the actual structure, but I'm just trying to explain the things. Okay, so now if you see here, so I'm saying business unit 1, so for which I'm giving 10. So now here what I will give is that since my operation, the core operation handled in Chennai, so I'll say this is my Chennai BU, that is BU1. So I'll say 10. And again here I'll say 10, and I'll select the respective combination with my cash and cash clearing account. Okay. But then here if you see, so if I'm going with this option, so even for BU2 I'll have it set as 10. This accounting will fail because I will not have access to 20 since this belongs to different state by itself, right? So in this case, what I'll have to do is that, so I'll have to give the account access at 20. For this, it is 30. So that is the reason we have this account code combination given at bank account level and also the business unit level. Okay. So this is about the bank structure that we'll be creating in the application. Okay. Yeah, so apart from that, we also have certain, just a minute, let me just check if this is running for one last time. Okay, yeah, so it has come, I think. So let me just navigate to setup and maintenance. Yeah, so that's about your structure, the bank account structure. Okay, so apart from that, you have a few reporting and the other things that you can look at. Okay, so just give me one moment. Yeah, so here, so this is what we understood till now. So I'll just go to the application and show you how to create this bank and branch and the bank accounts. Okay. So now, if you see on the left hand side, you have the module specific configurations. So the navigation is this. So once you log in, so you'll have your landing page, and from here you can click setup and maintenance, and you'll get your module specific setups. So for this, I'm trying to create bank. So I'll just click this cash management. Okay, so which will give me the bank, branch, and bank account setup. So first I'll click this bank. Okay, so I'll just say add. Okay, so let me say this is for India, and the bank account is HDFC. Okay, so here if you see, if you want to just give the bank code, so usually bank code will be specific, but this is not mandatory because most business is not interested in capturing bank code and all those information. So they are interested only in terms of looking at your IFSC code and how it is maintained. Okay, so that's about it. And then, as I said, you can capture your bank address, but again, this is not mandatory. So similar to that, if you want to include the manager and the other details, the phone number and email address, so that you can capture. So address, it is same as what we saw when we are creating this legal entity in GL. So it's the same process. Okay. And this is optional. Moreover, business will less likely use this feature. Okay. So I'm just skipping this for now. Anyway, you can just create. If you face any issue, you can get back to me, so we'll try to solve that. Okay, so these are the two mandatory things that you'll have to give. So if you see something in asterisk or star, so that becomes your mandatory information to be inputted. So in this case, it is your country and the bank name that is mandatory. Okay, so I'm just saying save and close, so which will create this bank name. Okay, so now the next step is to create the branch. Okay, so this is the one that we created. So I can just go out and click bank branch, or I can click this option and say create branch, which will take me to the bank creation screen. Okay, so here I can say the branch name. Okay, so this is your bank number field. Okay, so this is your IFSC code. So let me just give this as, let's say, 5467367. Okay. So then I have my additional information that if I want to give, and then the branch field, I mean branch number type, and so these are like additional information. As I said, there are a lot of information that you can capture in the screen, but all are mostly optional. So if you see here, so only these two are mandatory. So bank, of course, we have created it already, but branch name. Okay. Then the IFSC code. So in order to do the payment processing, so I will need IFSC code. So that's the reason I'm giving it. So if you see here, so this is optional. The reason being, so if you want to probably look at the check number or the check based payment entry, so you will not need this IFSC code, or if you are issuing DD, so you will not need this IFSC code. So IFSC code is mandatory only if you are making NEFT or RTGS or any online transaction basically. Okay. Yeah, so since we wanted to capture the IFSC code, so this is the field it is. So similar to that, you have the address and the contact details here as well. Okay, so I'll just say save and close. Okay, so now we have created the bank, and also we have created the branch. Okay, so I'll just say done, and I'll say create new bank account. Okay, manage bank account. So here you can just create, and we can input the So now this bank account is basically based on the legal entity. So here if you see on top, so you'll have the legal entity. So the one that we created is SCFC. Okay. So I'm not sure which one we created. Okay, this is branch. So the branch name that we gave is Sananagar. Yeah, this is the one. So you can just cross verify here with, okay, let me just go to search. Okay, so here if you see, so this is Ananagar. So as I said, the branch number is nothing but your IFSC code. So you can also search with IFSC code, or if you want to just search with the branch name, you can search, or only if you want to give the bank name, so that is also possible. Okay, so as you can see, so this is our IFSC code. Okay, so I'll just say select and OK. So now you can give the account name. Okay, so for now, let me call this as payment and collection account. Okay, and let me give the account as this, and the currency is INR. Okay, and the legal entity is US. Okay, so this is the one that is US1 legal entity. Okay, so IBAN is mostly for the European country and Middle East also to some extent they will use I1, but for India scenario it is only the IFSC code that we will capture. Okay, so that we have already captured in the branch creation stage. So I'm not inputting any information here. So these are just optional information that you can input if at all you want to capture. Okay, so as I said, so this is the use first thing. So I'm using this for payables and receivables. And here if you see, I'm saying it is payment and collection account. Okay. And then these are the four options that I was explaining about. So here if you see, so first thing you have is that selection of your cash and this account. Okay. So let me select first the cash account and then the cash clearing account. Okay, so then you have the cash clearing account. So now under that, if you notice, you have something called reconciliation difference. So now if you are seeing any difference when you reconcile your statement with your system transaction, so this is the account system will use to park your difference amount. It could be in paise, let's say 0.23 paise. So this particular code combination is invalid. Okay, I think this is defined with different uh, legal entity or probably this thing. So for now, I'll just say it is cash account. Yeah, so this is there. So here I'll just search for cash clearing. Yeah, so this is our cash clearing account. Okay. So the usual practice is that we will have the bank account and the bank clearing account as well. Okay. So now if you see here, to enable multiple cash account combination for reconciliation. So if you want to use multiple cash account, you can enable this option, but I'm not using it right now. And also the account reference difference, I'm not using it because I wanted to show how this cash transactions are generated if there is amount that is not in our system transaction. Okay, and here you can see it is additional information. So it's the EFT number and the alternative name. So these are completely optional. Okay. And then here, if you see, it is the multi-currency if I want to enable. So I'm not enabling it right now. So I'll just use the standard one. Okay. And then netting. So netting again, this bank account is not for netting. So this is for payables and receivables. So I'm not selecting this netting option. Okay. Yeah, and then you're okay. I'll come back to this one, the payment document. So before that, I'll explain other things. That is your controls. Okay, so the controls, first thing, if you see, as I said, your tolerance. So you'll have to define, either you can select this tolerance limit, or if you want to specify your own tolerance, you can do it. Okay. And then, as I said, for your foreign currency transaction, if there is difference, so system will generate. So using this rate type. Okay, so rate type visa and GL. So that's the same thing that I'm using. So that is corporate. Okay. Okay, let me say this is corporate. And then the reversal. So whether you want to reverse or then you want to create the debit memo reversal. So that's about it. And this is what I was talking about, the automatic reconciliation rule set. So there will be multiple rules attached to it. Okay, so you can use that, right? And then if you come down, you have a parsing rule set. So parsing rule set is not generally used, because when you will use this parsing rule set is that, so you want to pass this value to some other object, and from there you want to read your statement. So that is when we will use this parsing rule set. So we'll see parsing rule set when we see the bank statement and the recon activity. Okay, so by then we'll see that. So then, as I said, the transaction creation rule. So again, here I'm not attaching it. So we will create, and then we will come back to the screen and attach this particular this thing, transaction rule set. Okay. Yeah, and then these are for cash positioning. So what is cash positioning is that, so if I want to look at probably, let's say, the balance I wanted to see, this is the balance that I wanted to maintain as a minimum balance. So I can set this as, let's say, $1,000, or probably the $1 lakh if I want to set. So I can set the limit here. So based on which my forecast and analysis will be used. So this is the last topic that we have for cash management module. So that probably I'll show when we see the forecasting. Okay. And then the transaction calendar is nothing but your actual working calendar. So if you want to define it, but this is not mandatory, purely option. Okay. And then your payable and receivable controls. So if you want to set the minimum payment and the maximum payment, so you can do it. And then you have something called zero payment. So now what is zero payment? So zero payment is nothing but a scenario wherein you are trying to clear an invoice. So logically you will not be making a payment, but it's the zero payment that we are making, meaning, so I am creating one debit memo or credit memo on payable module. Okay, so now this is going to appear in my aging report, but I don't want to see this in my aging report. So what I will do to close this liability. So even though it is zero, so still this will appear as a liability in the report. So to knock this off, so I'll use this option called zero payment, and I'll make the payment for zero amount. Okay, so that is about the control. And then the security part, so again, as I said, so this is understandable, so I'm not saying create. So if you enable this secure bank account by user and role, so you'll be given option to basically create it by user or by role. So it's understandable, so I'm just leaving this option. Then you have the business unit access. Okay, so you can just give access to your business unit. Okay, so in this case, let me give access to Supremo US business unit. So as I said here, if you see, so you have this combination. If you want to change the combination, you can change. Okay, so now if you see here, so you have certain bank payment methods that you can define. So let me say this is for check. Okay, so this is nothing but the document sequence, that is your numbering in payables module. So if at all you want to generate, so that you can give it here. Okay, so it's not limited to one, so you can create multiple payment methods and you can just say okay. Okay, so this realized gain or loss will be used if there is any currency fluctuation and the which cause the difference, so that you can look at here. Okay, and this is for your bank charges. So I'll just say okay. So now I have almost given all the information to use this bank account. Okay, so finally I have this payment document. So this payment document I will use only when I have or when I have requirement. I'm not sure why this is dragging. I think there is some issue with that page. I'm not sure why it just keep rolling to right. Okay, so I'll just go back to this same screen again. Okay, yeah. So the last point we had is that okay, let me just query the one that we have it, because we have created it almost, but then so let me just query with the legal entity. Okay, so let me create. Let me query the first one. Okay, so now if I, okay, instead of creating, I'm not sure why. Okay, so let me just try to explain things here. So there is some issue with the screen, I believe. Okay, so now why do we use that particular option? Is that so now I have two kinds of payments. So one is my paper based payment. It could be my DD or check or any other mode. It could be even the letter of credit. Okay, so now I have the other mode of payments. So that is my NEFT RTGS, which is completely online. So for which I will not need this particular setup called payment document. So payment document is required only when I use this as a printed version of issuing this payment to the vendor. Okay. So that is when I will need this particular option, right? So assumption here is that this is for the check payment. So here you can see from the document name, it is check stock A. And here, if you see the format, it is standard check format. Okay. So for which we are defining it here and we will give the check number. So where I'll get the check number, it is from the check leaf. So whatever the from date and last date that I'm seeing the, sorry, from number and the last number that I'm seeing in the check leaf. So that is what I'll give here as an from number and to number. Okay. So once these things are done, so we'll have to just say save and close, which will create our bank account. Okay. So any question till now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Enable.
Okay. So if we don't have any questions, so probably I'll just move on. So this is first thing that I had for cash management. Okay. Yeah, so let me just go inside this other setups inside cash management. Okay, so I'll just open this. Okay, so next thing that I have is that in terms of bank statement. Okay, so for bank statement, so there are configurations that I will have to do it in the system. So first thing is that as we have seen the bank account creation, so which we have created it. Okay, so then the second thing that I have here is that, so one is the transaction code. So here the transaction code is nothing but the short code that is given by Oracle. So whatever, sorry, not Oracle, it is by the bank. So in this case, let's say HDFC or Axis Bank, whichever the bank that we are implementing for. Okay. So now, if bank says that CHK is for our check payment, so what I will do is that, so I'll just say bank statement transaction codes. Okay, so here I can add a new value. I'll just say new, and I'll give here as so let's say CHQ. So if I see CHQ, which means this is my check. Okay, so here I can say this is my check payment, and I can say save and close. So by which system will understand if my statement has this transaction code, this will be identified as check payment. Okay, so this is how basically, so unless I have this transaction code added in the system, I will not be able to import my transaction and do the reconciliation. Okay, so for which I will need this statement transaction code created in the system. Okay, so I'll just say done. Okay, so the next step is to create the matching rules. So this is what I was referring to, bank statement reconciliation matching rules. Okay, so I'll just click this. So there are standard rules that will be given by Oracle. So if you see here, so whatever you're seeing starting with ORA, so these are the rules that is given by Oracle. So for example, I'll just open for payroll processing. So what is the rule that is given by Oracle? So here, if you see, so the transaction source is payroll, because this rule is written specifically for payroll batch processing. Okay. So now if we come down, it is based on the amount. It is not based on the reconciliation reference or date or the transaction type. Because if I wanted to match it by amount, it's only through this criteria that I'm defining it here. Again, here if you see, so this is what I was explaining here in the Excel sheet, that is one to one, one to many, these options. So when I gave this example as one to many, so it is this. Okay, so here if you see one to one to many, many to one, and many to many. Okay, so zero amount is less likely used. So I have seen scenario wherein we have one to one, one to many. So even many to one, I have seen it. Okay, but not the zero amount. Okay, so this is what it is, and then you have the system transaction grouping attribute. So how do you want to group this thing? So whether it is basically based on the, so this is not mandatory to give as an option, but if you have let's say, so even with your this thing amount, so system should be able to match it. But if you want to set the system and the bank statement criteria, so you can set here. So let's say I don't want to use reconciliation match date, so I wanted to use reconciliation reference. So which means my transaction number for this payroll payment and what I get it in my bank statement should be same. So instead of making it as a reconciliation match date, so what I can do is that I can select this option called reconciliation reference. Okay, so there are multiple options. So based on the business requirement, so you can select. So even the receipt batch number, you can use it. So when will I use receipt batch number is that if I use logbots. So logbots, anyway, we'll see later point in time, but to give idea, so logbots is a feature that is given by commercial banks to their customers basically. Okay, so wherein this file will have certain information. So using that, we will create the receipts automatically in the system. So it's not the manual receipt creation in the system. Okay, so if you are using that feature, you can go for receipt batch number, which you will get in the batch, or if you want to validate using the receipt class, or if you want to use the payment structure payment reference. So structure payment reference, again we'll use it in the receipt. So this again I'll show you, but this is just a field that we'll use. So there, if I want to capture this reference number there and do the record, I can do this. So at what scenario I will use this structure payment references that, so when business don't want to use the receipt number as the payment reference number, or let's say they have a requirement wherein this is received as a check payment. Okay, so now I will use this check number in my receipt number column. But whereas the invert that I'm getting using my DD number. Okay, so I'm just utilizing my check and I'm just taking this as an with the help of DD. Okay, and I'm importing this particular transaction into my receivables module. So for that, what I can do is that I can give check number in the receipt number column, and I can give the actual DD number in my structured payments reference. Okay, so using that, I can do the reconciliation. So similarly, there are multiple options that you have. Probably you can just make use of this particular column. Okay, so even if you, so yeah, so here one point to mention is that you have the journal level reconciliation also. So if you see here, so you have journal also. So if you are not importing it from payroll module, but the data is transferred to general ledger from payroll module, and from there you are picking it. So then you can see journal line description. So wherein you can do a SLA customization, and then you can bring in your journal line description, and using that you can do the reconciliation. Okay, so there are multiple options, as I said. So based on the specific scenario, you can select this option. Okay, so this is one such criteria that we are looking at. So I'll just open the other one as well. So just to give idea, but if you see, so mostly it is same as what we saw now in terms of option. So you will not see much of a change, but here if you see, it is again one to many and the amount. But here if you see, so it is the reconciliation match state that we have given. Okay, and the module if you see, so it is the receivable module that we are talking about. Okay, yeah, so that's about your reconciliation matching rule. So accordingly you can create multiple rules, and then you can create one rule set. Okay, so this rule set can accommodate multiple rules. So I'll just open this. Okay, so here if you see, it's the one rule that has been assigned. So let me just say add, and just give me one moment. Yeah, sorry.
Yes, Arun.
Yeah,
No questions from my side.
okay,
Oh.
okay. Yeah, so then the this thing, so you can add multiple rules. Okay, so let me just add the one which we saw, that is receipt matching, that is one to many. Okay, so again here, if I want to set the tolerance, that is either the 1% or whatever the limit that we want to give. So if I want to attach this, I can do it. Okay. So the reason being, uh, this rule set will be associated with my bank account. So I have shown you the place where we'll attach the rule set, but the configuration is this. So we'll just say this is the rule set that will use it. Okay, so I'm just saying okay. So now I'll just say save and close. So now we have used this rule set to have it created in multiple this thing. Okay. Yeah, so this is about the bank statement rules. Yeah, so before going into next setup, so I'll just show you the tolerance, and then I'll try to import, or I'll show you how to import your bank statement, and I'll also show you how to create your manual bank statement. Okay, and how to do the automatic reconciliation, because till now what we have seen is that we have created the bank statement, we have created the statement rules, and then we have attached it with the bank account. Okay, so finally we have the tolerance rules. Okay, so here you can just give the name. Okay, and then if you want to give the date tolerance, you can give, or if you want to give amount or the percentage tolerance, you can give. So if you don't give this tolerance, basically system will look for the date, and it is going to uh, look at the exact statement line transactions and the system line transactions. Okay, so now if I'm giving amount, so I'm not setting the tolerance because as I said, I wanted to show the cash transaction generated automatically. Okay, so for that reason I'm not giving any tolerance, but I'm just explaining the options. So in terms of options, you can give amount or the percent, and then you can attach it to the reconciliation rule set, which I showed just before the screen. Okay, so this can be created and attached there. Okay, so now what I will do is that, so I'll go back to the security console and add what we call the role first. Okay, because first thing I'll need this role, and second thing is that I'll have to decide on the format. So the format that I'm looking at here, it is my what do you call the MT940 format. So it's not only the MT940, you can use the Swift or any other custom format also you can use it. So for this understanding, I'm using MT940. So before that I'll use the manual statement, and then we'll see how to import using the MT940 statement. All right. Yeah, so this is the user. So I'll just give the access, that is cache manager. Okay, so if you see something like CE, which means that is a custom role, so I'm just going for the second one. So this is the seeded role, so I'll just say save and close. Okay, so I'll just give the data access and log out and log in once. Okay, so I have given access to the ES1 business unit. So let me just log out once and log in. So after logging into the application, so I should be seeing the cash management related options in the application. Yeah, so this is the one, cash management. Okay, so if I click this bank statement and reconciliation, so I'll see a dashboard wherein the immediate actionable items can be seen here. So for instance, if I'm processing any statement, or let's say I have scheduled this process, okay, because this loading process is completely scheduled process. So if I want to look at my scheduled process, I can see here. So which will give me the process ID, okay, and the process date, and then the file and the statement date. So now if I want to see if this particular statement ID which I'm looking for is loaded in the system, or it has any issue, or it has already reconciled all those information, if I want to see, so I can just expand this and I can just give the statement ID and I can say search. So now to give the information, so statement ID is a unique value that is given by bank. Okay, so that's the same thing that we will consume. Okay, so in this case it is, so okay, let me first create one manual statement. Okay, so to create, okay, before that, so these are the options that we have. So first thing, if you see, so I have option to create the bank statement manually, or I can search the bank statement that is created or loaded in the system, or if I want to load the bank statement, I can load it from here, or if I want to load it in the spreadsheet. So there are a few things wherein I will not have facility to, or probably this facility might be in progress or till that time. So I might want to use the spreadsheet option. So I can use this. So wherein I can load the statement using spreadsheet. So this is basically ADFTA option. Okay. So then the cash transaction. So this we'll talk about it, and these are the two options basically. So whether I'm going to do the manual reconciliation or the automatic reconciliation. So first we'll see the manual reconciliation, and also we'll see the auto reconciliation. Okay. So these are like external transaction that we create and accounting for the external transactions. Okay. So quickly, I'll just create one bank statement. So the account that I will use is that, so let me use this account 2869. Okay. So the statement date is today, and let me give the statement ID as 5641. Okay, so which will be unique. So if I import it as MT940 or SIFT format, so I'll have the opening and the closing balance from the file, that is MT940 file. But in this case, I'll not know the exact opening and the closing balance. So I'm just saying this as 0. Okay. So I'll go ahead and create the statement lines. Okay. So now here, so I'll just say the booking date. Okay. And I'll just say this is 89. I'm not sure if I have any transaction with 89. So let me just leave this as blank, and I'll see in the manual reconciliation screen, and then I'll take one transaction from there and I'll update this reconciliation reference field here, and we'll run this automatic reconciliation, and we'll see if this particular transaction or this line is cleared automatically. Okay, so I'll just say this is check, that is 01. Okay, and the indicator is, let me say, it is for 1000 rupees. Okay, so these are some of the additional information that you can capture. Okay, so for fees, that is bank charges and these things that you can capture. Okay, and then here if you see, you have the additional information, so that is your structured payment reference number. Okay, so this structure payment reference number will be matched with your receipt. So as I explained, so in receipt screen you have structure payment reference number, so that will be used to do the reconciliation. Okay, and then your foreign currency details, the original currency and the exchange rate, all those information that you can enter. Okay, so these are optional, so I'm just giving the booking date as today's date and the transaction code, and this is debit 1000 rupees. Okay, so I'll just say okay and go ahead with saving and closing this. So now if you notice here, so by default the status is in unreconciled. Okay, and since we did not give the reference, so the reference is blank. Okay, so we have debited 1000. So I'll just look for the payment. So I'll go to manual reconciliation. Okay, so here I'll have to select this account. The one that we selected is 2869. I'll just say search. I think this will have a lot of transaction in it. So let me search with the amount. Let me try to input because since this is vision instance, so there will be a lot of transaction that will be created in the system. I think 5641 is the one that we gave. Yeah, correct. So this is the one. So if you see 5641 is the statement ID that we gave, and we gave only one line, so that is of 1000 rupees in check. Okay. So now let me just check for the payable transaction. So probably if we have anything around 1000, so we'll give. Okay, I think we don't have the transaction of 1000, so let me take 7970 and 7970 is the number, and the amount is 5037. 5037. Okay, so Let me change this number and I'll see. Okay, so this is our statement. So let me just try to edit the amount and the reference number. Okay, so for us the amount should be 5037. So I'll change this to 5037. Okay, and then I'll have to add the reconciliation reference number as 7970. Okay, so now we can see that we have updated the amount and the reconciliation reference. So I'll just run it. 1 minute, let me just check if the status is fine. Okay, yeah, so this should be fine. Okay, so I'll just try to run this automatic reconciliation. So manual anyway, we can just select both the transaction and we can just say this is the thing. So for this, I'm not using the manual, so I'm using the automatic reconciliation rule set. So I'll select the one that we created, that is 5641 is our statement. So I don't want to give a specific statement date. So I'll just run it with this. So these are options to filter the transaction and do the reconciliation. So the filtration that I'm doing is 5641 because that's the one that we created. Okay. Okay, so let me just check if this program is completed because this will trigger schedule process which should get completed. Yeah, so this was completed. So let me query this again. So let me take this statement again, and it is 5641 is the statement number. Okay, so here I couldn't identify that particular transaction. In order to double confirm if this is reconciled or not, so you'll have to check in this option called reconcile. So here again I'll have to do a search which will give me the reconcile transaction. So if you see, so this is the one that we created, so that is 7970. Okay, and the amount is 5037. Okay, so this is in check mode of payment. Okay, so which system will do the reconciliation automatically based on the rules that we have written. Okay, and the manual reconciliation, it is nothing but you will have one side you will have your bank lines, and on the right hand side you will have your system transaction. So you'll have to just enable this checkbox and say reconcile, which will reconcile your transaction. So this is simple option. Okay, so that is about the reconciliation, and then we have the loading the bank statement. Okay, so I'll just show you one statement. So how to load that statement and import here. Okay, so instead of this, what I will do is that I'll go to schedule process and I'll load it directly from here. Okay, so here I'll have to give the import process, because that is how system will understand that this is the program that needs to be used to import the bank statement basically. Okay, so this is the one. So my format is MT940, so I'm saying process Swift MT940 format bank statements. Okay, so if your format is, let's say, CAMT, so I'll use this third program. Okay, so I'll just say okay, and let me pick one file, just random file, let me pick it. And okay, so I'll just say okay and submit. So this is basically the raw file that I got it from bank. So we are just trying to load that particular file and see if we are able to see the statement lines in the system. I think there is some issue in loading. Let me check. Okay, I think the bank account number is different. That's right. Let me try to change the bank account number here in this file. Okay, so I'll have to go to the cash management module to take this number. So I'll have to navigate to cash management. So here it is, the bank account name is BOFA. So it is this, that is 2869. So we'll have to take this account number and put it in the bank account number column. Okay, and the other information, I don't think it is issue, so it should get through. So let's see if this works, because if we have the actual account and the actual bank account details, so which will flow through, but since here it's of the dummy account or the dummy statement that we are trying to load, so that's the issue. So let's see if this gets loaded. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah, so this is process. Yeah, this is the one. So let me select the file which we created. So that is I think this is the one that we just selected, which should get updated. So I'll just say submit. Okay, so basically the format should be correct. I believe either the legal entity name or this will be different, but we'll have to change everything in this format. Okay, so but the process is this. So if you run this program with this adding as an import process, so this will trigger the program to import it. So once this program is completed, so then you'll have to see here. Okay, so similarly how we saw in the bank statement, so if you have the statement ID, so directly you can input or the file name or the request ID. Okay, so you can just search for this, or you can go to the manage bank statement similar to what we saw. Okay, so if our statement is loaded, so this will add to the second line, which means the second statement ID. Okay, so that's the thing. So similar to that, you will have the reconciliation status. If it is completed, you will see status as complete, or you will see that as incomplete. Okay, so that is about the bank statement and the reconciliation. Any doubt till this point?
Not out, Arun. I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm able to follow.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, Arun, I can hear you.
Okay. I was saying if we don't have any doubts, so probably for today we will close the call. And I have two other things in the cash management model. One is the transaction rules that will create to automatically create the bank charges and these things. And
Mhm.
another thing is the forecasting. So this probably will complete in the next week.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.